Look at this image. What you can infer from this image? We can infer that the trees are being cut. What will happen if this process continues? We would get a vast barren land. These land will be without any plants or animals, and this would lead to many consequences. So why are these trees being cut? How can we conserve plants and animals? And what will be our role in conserving them? We'll discuss all this in the coming chapter. Hi, I'm Shajmin, and today we'll discuss in detail the conservation of plants and animals. Before going into the conservation part, we'll discuss what is deforestation. So what is deforestation? Deforestation means the cutting and clearing of the forest. It means the cutting and clearing of the forest. But why is this deforestation done? Why do we cut the trees? The reason for this are many. So we'll list down a few reasons here. So the first reason, to obtain land for agriculture. We know that our population is increasing, and so the demand of food. Hence, we require more land for agriculture, and these agricultural lands are produced by cutting the forest. Second, we need timbers for furnitures. Our sofas, dining tables are made up of wood, and these wood comes from felling trees. Similarly, we require wood for making buildings and for factories. Timber factories, paper factories require wood. Their raw materials are wood. Similarly, in making buildings, the doors, windows require wood. As well as in villages, we use firewood, which again comes by cutting of trees. So these are the major reasons for which we cut trees or we go for deforestation. Now, what are the effects of deforestation? There are many effects of deforestation. We'll list down. These are the different effects of deforestation. Deforestation majorly leads to increase in temperature and carbon dioxide, and if the temperature and carbon dioxide increases, it causes global warming. So basically, plants are the one who consumes carbon dioxide and animals are the one who produce carbon dioxide. So during respiration, we take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide. So here you can see animals they release carbon dioxide. And what do plants do? Plants take in this carbon dioxide. So plants are the one who reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. But if there is no plants, if we remove the plant from our environment, what happens? The amount of carbon dioxide increases, and carbon dioxide has the capacity to hold heat in it. Hence, the temperature of the earth increases, leading to global warming. Global warming. So the very first effect or consequence of deforestation is the increase in atmospheric carbon dioxide, which would lead to global warming. Apart from that, if we go on felling trees, we are destroying the biodiversity. Felling of trees also lead to drought, because trees are the one which has high water holding capacity. So if trees are not there, the soil loses its water in a very fast rate, which lead to drought. Even flooding. because the water holding capacity of soil increases by trees, and if there are no tree, the soil cannot hold water in it, which would lead to flooding. And even the water cycle will be disrupted. The water cycle will also be disrupted because of deforestation. So, these are the consequences or effects of deforestation. Apart from that, we have noticed that deforestation leads to change in soil property. It leads to change in soil property. You can see here, lesser trees removes the topsoil. It removes the topsoil, and removal of topsoil is known as soil erosion. Due to soil erosion, desertification takes place. Once the green land will change into a desert. You can see here. So, here you can see where trees are not present, hence the whole land has become a desert. Similarly, it also reduces the water holding capacity. I told you, if there is no trees, the water holding capacity of the soil reduces, because trees, the vast root system of the trees holds water in it. So, holds the soil as well as water. If there is no tree, the water retaining capacity of the soil decreases, due to which flood become common during rains. You might have seen recently there was Chennai flood. We saw a cyclone has hit Chennai and Chennai was completely flooded. That's because there is no trees, everything is concrete, and there is no way that soil can absorb more amount of water, which lead for flooding. So, next we will see. So, we have understood what is deforestation, why it is done, and what are the consequences of deforestation. Now, we will see how can we conserve the biodiversity. Okay? So, what is meant by biodiversity? What is meant by biodiversity? So, biodiversity, by the name itself, it says bio. Bio means life. Okay? Bio means life, and diversity, diverse, various, okay, variety, that is known as diversity. So, variety of life form is known as biodiversity. Okay, biodiversity is the variety of life form which is found on this earth. There are different kinds of plants, different kinds of animals, microorganisms, etc. They are all part of biodiversity. So, biodiversity is the diversity of living organisms found on earth. It is the diversity of living organism found on earth, that is known as biodiversity. Now, these living organisms, they interact with each other as well as their environment. Okay? So, these organisms interact with each other as well as their environment. So, these organisms, that is living organism found on earth, is known as biodiversity. And when a living organism, that is when a plant is found in an area or an animal is found in an area, we call them as flora and fauna. So, what is flora and fauna? Flora means it is the plant species found in a particular area. Okay, if you visit a forest and you will find hundreds of plant species there, that is the flora of that particular area. Similarly, fauna, it is the animal species found in a particular area. Similarly, if you go to a forest visit and whatever animal you find there, whatever species of animal you find there, that is known as the fauna of that forest. So, flora, the plant species of an area, and fauna are the animal species of an area. Now, this was about flora and fauna. Now, how do we conserve them? We are studying how can we conserve biodiversity, right? We have studied what is biodiversity, what is flora and what is fauna. But how can we conserve them? So, government has come up with 3 protected areas where these biodiversities are conserved, okay. Mainly they are conserved in their natural habitat. Instead of removing them from their home, they are conserved in their home itself, okay. So, 3 protected areas are there where the biodiversities are conserved. So, what are those protected areas? One is the biosphere reserves. Biosphere reserves. Biosphere reserves are the biggest area. It spans a whole forest or more than many ecosystem comes under biosphere reserves. They are vast area. Apart from that, biosphere reserve, we have national parks. National parks are smaller than biosphere reserve. They can be a part of biosphere reserve. So, one biosphere reserve can have many national park in it. So, national parks are smaller areas which protects a flora and fauna of that particular area. Now comes the third comes wildlife sanctuaries. Okay, wildlife sanctuary. So, wildlife sanctuaries are again smaller than national park. These areas are smaller than national park and they focus on conserving the fauna of that particular area. So, these are the 3 protected areas. We will see one by one each. So, first we will see biosphere reserves. Biosphere reserves, as I told you, they are vast areas, large areas of protected land for conservation of wildlife. It can be plants, it can be animals, okay, it can be any wildlife, conservation of wildlife. And because these biosphere reserves are very vast area, it can span a whole forest or a whole ecosystem. Hence, the tribals living there are also considered. The tribals are also allowed to live in the biosphere reserves, okay. So, there are around more than 30 biosphere reserves in India. You can see these are the few biosphere reserves which I have listed. One is Pachmari Biosphere Reserve, which is mentioned in your textbook. Apart from that, there is Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, which is in Tamil Nadu. There is Sundarban Biosphere Reserve, Manas Biosphere Reserve. These are the different biosphere reserves. Now, we will move on to the second protected areas. The second protected area is wildlife sanctuary. Wildlife sanctuaries are areas where animals are protected from any disturbance, okay, where animals are protected from any disturbance in their own habitat. As I told you, protected areas, we preserve these, we conserve these organisms in their own habitat. Similarly, in wildlife sanctuary also, the small areas, comparatively we compare the biosphere reserve from biosphere reserve, these areas are very small, okay, and here the animal species are conserved in their own habitat. Now, you can see Bodhi Wildlife Sanctuary, it is a part of Pachmari Biosphere Reserve. Pachmari Wildlife Sanctuary, again a part of Pachmari Biosphere Reserve. We have Periyar Wildlife Sanctuary in Kerala, okay. So, these are the different wildlife sanctuaries. The third protected area is National Park. Areas reserved for wildlife. So, here also wildlife conservation, that is plants as well as animals, where they can freely use the habitat and natural resources. These are also areas smaller than biosphere reserve but larger than wildlife sanctuaries. Now, you can see Satpura National Park, part of Pachmari Biosphere Reserve. We have Jim Corbett National Park, where tigers are, conserved. Kaziranga National Park, again a very famous national park in Assam, where one-horned rhinoceros are conserved, okay. Now then we have Iraviculam National Park. Iraviculam National Park is in Kerala, where you will find Nilgiri Thar, you will find the lion tail macaque. Okay, so these are all are found in Iraviculam National Park. So majorly you will find Nilgiri Thar here. So these are the different protected areas. Now let's move on to a few questions. So what is deforestation? What is deforestation? Cutting and felling of trees is known as deforestation, or clearing of forest is known as deforestation. Now what are the consequences of deforestation? What are the consequences? We have seen increase in carbon dioxide, which leads to global warming, okay, increase of drought, increase of flood, disturbance in water cycle, soil erosion, desertification. These are the consequences of deforestation. Define biodiversity. Biodiversity is the diversity of living organism on earth. Okay. Then we have define flora and fauna. Flora, it's the plant species found in a particular area. Fauna, it's the animal species found in a particular area. Similarly, name the different protected areas. We have already seen there are 3 different protected areas: biosphere reserves, wildlife sanctuaries and national parks. Now, name a few national parks in India. So, just now we have seen a few national parks. Satpura National Park we have seen Iraviculam National Park, okay, we have seen Jim Corbett National Park. So, these are the few national parks in India. There are more than 100 of national parks in India, in which you just need to remember 4 or 5 national parks. Now, let's move on to some different kinds of species. Okay. So, first let's see what are endemic species. Endemic species are species that are found particularly in one area. I mentioned about Giant squirrel. Giant squirrels are endemic species. They are found only in a particular area. Western Ghats, Giant squirrels are mainly found in Western Ghats. So, species that are found exclusively in a particular area. Okay. Species that are found exclusively in a particular area are known as endemic species. As I told you, giant squirrel is an endemic species which is found only in Western Ghat. Similarly, if we tell about lion tail macaque or Nilgiri Thar, these and all are endemic species. So, you can see here giant squirrel is an endemic species. Lion tail macaque again. Then Sal. Now, what is species? Species is a group of population which are capable of interbreeding. So, we can call cat as a species because every cat can interbreed and produce their own young ones, okay, their own young ones similar to their kind. Similarly, dogs are a species. Coming to giant squirrel, they are a species, okay, they can interbreed with each other and produce their own offspring. So, that kind of organism we call it as species. Horse and donkey we cannot call it as a species because they cannot interbreed and produce a new offspring of their own kind, whereas horse individually can be called as a species. So, species is a group of population which are capable of interbreeding. So, this was about endemic species and species. So, endemic species you all have understood what it is. They are species which are found exclusively in particular areas because they like that area. They are used to the climate. They are very sensitive and they are used to those climate. If the climate changes, if the habitat get lost, they are the one who will get affected a lot because they survive only in that particular area. Now, let's move on to the other species, that is endangered species. Endangered species are different from endemic species. Here in endangered species, they can live anywhere, but the number of these species are decreasing drastically, and this is happening because of the same reason, loss of habitat or hunting or poaching. These are the reasons why the organisms are decreasing drastically. Their number is decreasing drastically. So the species are decreasing due to hunting, poaching, loss of habitat, etc. Okay. So because of these reasons, the animals or the organisms, plants or animals number are decreasing and they are falling under endangered species. Similarly, nowadays amphibians, frogs are considered endangered because they have been hunted and consumed. Okay. Now killing of frogs has become, they have banned killing of frogs just because they got endangered. Similarly, tigers are endangered. Tigers are our national animal, but they are getting endangered. They are endangered now and they are facing the threat of extinction. So we need to protect them. We need to protect them because their number has been decreasing. They have gone below 1000, but now because of some initiative of the government, the number has increased a bit. Okay, it has showed improvement in the population. So tigers are endangered species. Similarly, I have told you about Kaziranga National Park in Assam. It's famous for one-horned rhinoceros. This one-horned rhinoceros is also an endangered species. Okay, bison, wild bison, they are also endangered species. So Project Tiger, I was talking about one initiative taken by the government to improve the population of tiger, and that initiative was Project Tiger. Project Tiger has come up to protect the population of tiger, and because of this Project Tiger program, the population of tigers has increased a lot, which is a very good sign for our country. Okay. So we have Satpura tiger reserves are there. We have in Kerala, we have Periyar tiger reserves where the tigers are conserved. So we have seen endemic species, we have seen endangered species. Now we all know that these species live in an area. So these species are always found in an area. So that area we call it as ecosystem. What do we call them as? We call them as ecosystem. Ecosystems are area where all organism, consider it plants, animals, microorganism, everyone interact with each other as well as their environment. Okay, so made up of all the plants, animals and microorganism in an area along with the non-living components such as climate, soil, river deltas, etc. These all together form ecosystem. Hence forest is an ecosystem, desert is an ecosystem, even a pond is also an ecosystem. So these organisms, the endangered species or the endemic species or the one which are not threatened, all live in the ecosystem. And if we destroy the ecosystem, we ultimately destroy these organisms. Now these organisms, the endangered organism or the extinct organisms are all listed very well in Red Data book. Okay, Red Data book is a book which has all the list of organisms which have gone endangered, which has come in the endangered list. So Red Data book is the source book which keeps a record of all the endangered animals and plants. Okay, not only animals, animals and plants has been recorded, all the endangered animals and plants has been recorded in this Red Data book, and this book is maintained by a international organization, IUCN. Okay, so IUCN maintains this Red Data book. Okay, it is International Union, okay, for conservation of nature and natural resources. They maintain this Red Data book, and India also has its own listing of organisms which has gone endangered. Okay, so now this was about the Red Data book. Now for the survival purpose, organisms also move out of their habitat. They move out of their habitat in search of food, in search of good climate and in search of mating partners. They move from their habitat, out of their habitat. So that process is known as migration. Migration is the movement of organisms from one place to another in search of food, climate or mating partners, okay. And this is mainly seen by birds. Birds migrate long distance. They actually fly for thousands and thousands of kilometers to reach from north to south in search of a good habitat. And flamingos are one such example that migrate from one place to another. Similarly, Arctic tern. Arctic tern is the bird which migrate the largest, okay. Sorry, the longest migratory bird is the Arctic tern. So migration is the movement of organism from one place to another, and there are birds that migrate. Even fishes are also seen migrating from one ocean to another. So this is about migration. So we have seen how, you know, our governments have taken initiative to conserve the plants and animals, okay, to prevent deforestation. But what is our part? How can we conserve? How can we conserve plants and animals? So we can also take parts, small parts can be taken by us to conserve these plants and animals. So one such part is by recycling of paper. We all know that we use lot of papers for our, you know, for our homeworks or making notes, everything we use lot of paper. But recycling of paper is very important because papers are made from trees. By felling trees, pulps are obtained and these pulps are used to make papers. So recycling, by recycling paper, we can actually save trees. Not only that, the energy required to make this papers can also be saved. The water required to make the pulp and you know, the final product called paper can also be saved. So recycling of paper not only helps in saving of trees, it also helps to save energy as well as water. So this small step can be taken from our side in the conservation of living organisms, okay. Apart from that, we can also do is reforestation. Government has come up with lot of initiatives, you know, for reforestation, but we can also go and plant trees to restock the destroyed forest. So reforestation means restocking the destroyed forest. It can be done by planting the same plants which were there in the forest. If there were teak in a forest, we can plant teak, okay. So by planting same plants, we can conserve the forest again, we can restore the forest, or else we can leave the barren land as such and nature will ultimately restore it naturally. So that can also be done, or else we can plant trees in our own compound, in our own surrounding, helping nature in conservation, okay. So this was about the chapter. We'll discuss a few questions. What are endemic species? What are endemic species? Endemic species are species that are found only in a particular area. So they are endemic species. So endemic species, they are very sensitive because any change in their environment will entirely destroy them, because they cannot survive in any other habitat apart from their own habitat. Give a few example of endangered species. Endangered species, I have shown you tigers, okay. Tigers are endangered species. The one-horned rhinoceros are endangered. I have told you about bisons, they are endangered. So these are the endangered species. Giant squirrel is an example of, endemic species because they are found only in a particular area. Then we have define reforestation. Reforestation is the restocking of destroyed forest, okay. By planting of trees, restocking of destroyed forest is known as reforestation. And the last question, why is recycling of paper required? Why is recycling of paper required? Recycling of paper is required because this can save a lot of trees, this can save energy and also water. Hence, recycling of paper is required. So, this was about the chapter. I hope you have understood the chapter very well, and also a small contribution from our part will help to conserve our environment. Thank you.
Manorama Horizon, learning made simple.